Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, business owners and SMEs. It's great to have you with us today on the live show. Got a good show lined up for you over the next hour or so. On today's show, we're going to be discussing 7 transformational steps to sales success. Now, I know you've heard all this before, and I suppose the biggest thing about any form of plan like this is, and the most important one, maybe it's point number 8, is that you actually do it. Action is the thing that we all need to do. But what are the 7 transformational steps for sales success? We're going to be finding out today. My guest in the studio is Rupert Honeywood. He is the founder and CEO of Business Growth Bureau. Is it the Business Growth Bureau or Business Growth Bureau?
Business Growth Bureau.
So we know the. No definitive then at the very beginning then. All right, so the Business Growth Bureau. You've been on the show before, Rupert. It's lovely to have you back again.
Thank you for asking.
Change in name for the business. Is that a change in name for what the business is doing? And for those people that don't know what the business does, what do you do?
Great point. You're right, we did have a name change, and the reason being is that we felt the previous branding boxes too much into a corner, and obviously fundamentally what we care about is helping businesses to grow, as the name suggests, and obviously the way we can do that is working with our clients to help make sure there's a really good lead flow of opportunities coming through so that they can close more business, and that's what we care fundamentally about. But the whole thing revolves around the word growth.
And it is the biggest problem that businesses have these days. I know that we're kind of in this start-stop situation at the moment. We're not even going to mention the B word here, but we are in a stop-start situation. But businesses still fundamentally, what they're looking for is some way to grow their business. They're looking for new prospects, potentially new customers, people that they can nurture, people that they can talk to. Is that what you do to help them? Do you go out there? Have you got a system that will help them do that?
Yes, we put in place some proven methodologies, as it were, to optimise the opportunities coming through for our clients through what we class as 7 transformational steps. But actually it's all about building relationships. We're all interacting with people, and that's the crucial thing. It's very easy these days with automation and AI and all this type of stuff to think that's the way. But, we are human beings. We need to be interacted in that way so that we want to engage and people want to buy our stuff, as it were.
Well, when we look back over a year ago, what you were majoring really on using LinkedIn to nurture those new clients, but your business has changed now, isn't it? Is that because LinkedIn has gone off in a different direction since it's been bought by Microsoft, or is it that you feel there's more opportunity to develop new clients and new prospects, not only with LinkedIn, with other platforms?
Great question. I mean, with LinkedIn in the business-to-business space, it is still the best one out there in terms of finding your clients, and especially if you've got a fairly high value product or service, then it's a great place to hang out. The thing is there are so many other things going on as well. So you obviously Facebook has had its challenges, but Facebook advertising can work very well for certain types of businesses. You've got obviously Instagram, which is very much up and coming, doing very well now. Twitter, which is sort of okay, but a little bit level or possibly declining a little bit now. So, but the fundamental thing is that especially now the way we interact and communicate, quite often multiple platforms are used to trigger engagement. So before we came in today, we were actually discussing this, weren't we, and how a journey might start off on LinkedIn. That might then lead into several exchanges via LinkedIn. It may be that the person goes off the boil for a little while, so then basically Facebook can then take over from there in terms of your engagement, and that might then re-engage another conversation on LinkedIn, which then may result in an email conversation, which may then result in a phone call. Quite often it revolves around multiple touch points to be able to engage with someone so they ultimately want to buy from you.
When you're talking to prospects that come in and talk to you, because obviously they know what they want from you, you're saying, we will get you more hot leads, warm leads. When they're talking to you, is it the fact that there is so much to do? There are so many platforms that they've now got to approach and got to be working on that they find it just overwhelming.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I must admit that is why we largely specialise around LinkedIn. So because there are other routes you can go, but especially if you're trying to do something yourself, it's better to focus on one thing and do it really well and get that working really well for you. Then obviously once that's starting to generate a really good lead flow of opportunities for you, then to start being a little bit more adventurous, to start plugging into some of the other platforms or technologies out there. So yeah, I don't know whether that helps to answer that question.
Well, when you look at the different platforms and when you look at what people are doing on them already, I feel that we're in a situation which I call AOR, that people are putting more and more content up on these different platforms. Unfortunately, it comes under the term AOR, any old rubbish. If I see another video of somebody with no point talking to me from the front seat of their car, telling me that they've just had a meeting, I will go spare, because it just seems at the moment that those other kind of videos, it seems to be any old content, any old rubbish. You'll stick it up on the platform and you're hoping to get results. Is that the right way, or should you be more strategic and should you target better?
I think that the latter is clearly a lot better. Sometimes there is, it's interesting actually, because sometimes in fact we did some tests a few weeks ago, and literally one was a very polished video and the other one was something actually with a phone held up to your face, just filmed in real time, just on a normal camera phone. And it's interesting, the one that was based on the camera phone actually got much better ratings on Facebook than the other one did. So I think it's probably because it was seen much more in the moment, and also it was much more that I was seen as if I was communicating with the person who's watching it directly as a conversation, rather than something that had been professionally put together, if that makes sense.
Well, in that case, then, how important
but I shooted myself in the foot when I
No, I can see that, because
yes.
but that kind of answers the question. But I suppose the question I'm asking you there is that both of them are exactly the same content.
No, the content was a little bit different.
Well, you see, isn't it all about content? Not delivery. It's about content, surely, isn't it?
You're the expert on this, actually.
Well, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you, honestly. But for instance, what you do is that you do very strategic, very targeted messages when you are representing somebody on LinkedIn, and you're doing that. So you research the messages, you research all of that. Well, then, for it to be a fair comparison, it's about the message, how engaging it is, what makes people watch to the very end. Surely, is that not important, do you think? Or is it AOR? Is it the fact that if you do stick any old rubbish up, people, in some respects, if it's shaky cam, will watch it? I feel like I'm picking a fight now. I'm not.
No, exactly. I mean, with video, it's great, and obviously, in reality, it's not my specialist field. Obviously, that's your area. But in terms of putting content out there, generally, for example, LinkedIn, when we put articles or posts up there, especially if it incorporates video, it's within usually 48 hours we've had over 1,000 views, which is pretty damn amazing for something which is free at the end of the day. However,
nothing's free.
Well,
if it's free, then you are the product.
Well, true.
Yes,
it's true.
But you're saying, so putting it up on a platform that if effectively feels like it's free.
True. Yeah. And I mean, what you are going basically is the currency of time, as it were. So if you manage to get someone to watch that content, it's putting you in a position, building up in a position as an expert in that space. Interesting enough, that what I would say, though, is it is actually still the direct personal outreach, which actually still scores far higher, though overall the content that you put out there is very good in supporting your overall message. But, for example, if you engage with people in the right way, say on something like LinkedIn, so you're actually having a genuine conversation, then the results can actually be quite quick with it, whereas the other content you're putting out tends to be more about building awareness and building your credibility and relationship of trust, if that makes sense.
I mean, we were talking about this whole thing. Do you think that's still important to build that relationship?
Yeah, especially if you're predominantly selling yourself or your company or organisation, and it's a fairly high product or service. If it's more of a commoditised service, then people are perhaps buying much more into that product or that widget, rather than into the individual.
We've known each other now for a number of years, and every time you come in, I always find it interesting and exciting and informative in what you do. I think that the way your company does what it does, the service it provides is amazing. If you don't know what the service is, if you had to sum it up in a minute, what is it?
Well, specialise in working with our clients to generate leads, nurturing those leads into hot prospects, and then working with our clients to turn those into sales-based opportunities.
Now, as you alluded to earlier on, initially it seemed it was predominantly on the LinkedIn platform. Things have moved on now, and you're looking at multiple platforms that you're working on because it can come from anywhere. It could even come from a lead at a sales show, couldn't it?
Yes, it could.
So are you combining all that content and tracking all that content to produce the final results?
Yes, as best as we can. And it's, in fact, again, we're having this a conversation earlier on. So a conversation may start off on LinkedIn, and that becomes the source for the initial inquiry. But it may be the actual inquiry then goes through several different stages, but it may be then, say, a Facebook advert, or it might be the fact that you've got a pixel on your particular page on your website that's been able to present a particular type of message to that prospect, which has finally triggered that conversation. But fundamentally, a lot of the old skills still apply as well. So ideally, what you want to do as quickly as you can is get people to the point where they're actually asking to have that conversation. So the conversation could ideally you want to take offline as quickly as you can, so it'd be a phone call or a meeting or a coffee, or get them into the showrooms if you're selling more of a car, for example. Because at the end of the day, the old skills still work, but if it's underpinned by all the engagement you can do online, and you can get that working really well to start with, and that's great.
Because we've got all this social media and all these platforms available, do you think we are now more hesitant at actually picking the phone up and calling people? It always says on LinkedIn, doesn't it, when you get a new contact, start a conversation. And I would wonder just how many people actually do that.
Well, I mean, we've found when we reach out to people on LinkedIn, as an average, at least 30% or so at least accept the initial connection request. Now, you might say, well, actually, that's quite low. But in fact, if you compare that with, say, email, and email does still work today, but it's obviously very saturated. The engagement rates on something like LinkedIn are far, far higher. And also the other thing to bear in mind as well is that the average person on LinkedIn typically earns well above the national average wage. And in the UK alone, there's 25 million people on the platform, 19 million profiles are reasonably active. So, you know, it's a great place to start the conversation. And the thing is, as well, is to bear in mind, too, is that in the old days, you used to pick up the phone and make a lot of outbound calls without any form of engagement to start with. These days, people have become so resistant to that. It is about trying to warm the person up first so that they're actually asked for that call, or when you do ring them, they at least know who you are or are keen to hear from you.
I know who you're talking about.
Exactly.
All right, listen, we're going to be talking to Rupert in just a few moments' time on those 7 key steps. I know we've kind of preambled our way through the first part of the programme, but I think it's important for us to actually lay a firm foundation so that we know what we're talking about and where we're going to be going. It really will be an interesting programme. If you are somebody that prospects on a regular basis on LinkedIn, I hope you find the information today of interest to you. I think the biggest mistake from my personal point of view, as we were kind of talking about it just then, is that what we don't do is that we don't pick the phone up, we don't write it, we don't interact, we get that connection, then we do nothing with it, and it just sits there and we go, oh, I've got 3,750 connections, of which none of them know who you are or you've never connected or talked to. So it's all those kind of things which are a real issue when it comes to using LinkedIn. More from Rupert then in just a few moments' time on this edition of Business Connections Live. Hello, you're watching Business Connections Live. By the way, if you are watching this promo on Rupert's website, thank you very much and welcome along. I understand he did 65,000 emails this morning, so he's personalised it right down to you. Thank you very much for watching. But it's great to have you. If you've got a comment, by the way, please do send us a text or not a text. We won't do text. We'll do Twitter. Go on to Twitter very quickly and drop us a question if you've got a question for Rupert in just a few moments' time. We'll be looking at those and we'll see if we can get a question to Rupert from your questions. OK, let's go back a week, shall we? Last week we were talking to Kate Cook. She was talking about positive nutrition. She's got a brand new book out, really good read. Not that many words in it, big writing. I like those kind of books, easy to get through. And she's got a wonderful attitude, a wonderful approach to positive nutrition in business. And last week when she was on the program, she came up with some fantastic ideas, things that could help all of us when it comes to eating more strategically, but also more importantly, making certain that we keep our health and our energy in the right place. Great show last week. Just to give you a bit of a taster of what Kate Cook said, here she is from last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Now, on today's show, we're going to be discussing how strategic eating can upgrade your health and also upgrade your energy as well. Joining us in the studio is Kate Cook. She's been at this for something like 20 years. She's been talking about the benefits of eating well, looking after yourself, and she's just published a brand new book. It's called Positive Nutrition.
Well, I'm a corporate nutritionist. That means that I go into businesses educating people on the foundation of wellness, which I believe to be nutrition. And it's really grown over these last 20 years. So 20 years ago, it was a pretty tough gig, this. But now, so many departments, from training and development to HR to health and safety to all of those sort of departments, talent retention, are all into how we can reclaim vibrant energy in order to get, to really propel our careers and business forward. I think the first thing about nutrition is community and eating pretty normally, but it's about eating the best, freshest food, and there are certain guidelines that you need to adhere to get that maximum result. You know, what we're trying to do in nutrition, the type of nutrition I do, is balance the blood sugar. We're balancing a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the undercurrent all degenerative disease, but all it is really doing is balancing blood sugar. So the way we do that is avoiding sweet, fluffy and white foods. Sweet, fluffy and white foods cause an insulin spike. So they're causing things like fat, especially stored around the middle. They're causing brain degeneration, inflammation, all degenerative disease. You want to really play smart on your biochemistry. I know that sounds a bit technical, but it's kind of like man as a machine in a way. We're so used to thinking we're invincible. We're so used to thinking that actually it doesn't matter, that all the time we're eroding the potential that we've got both personally and in business by not playing the game to the top level that you can. Just looking holistically for a second, it's just like there's nothing wrong with enjoying a glass of wine. It's nothing wrong with sitting down and enjoying a great meal cooked well that you're sharing as a community, sharing with your family or sharing whatever. That is proper nutrition. What isn't proper nutrition is gobbling an avocado by yourself in the car park because you want kind of functional nutrition. That's just not how, in my world, how nutrition not should be, but it's much more involving of everybody and involving everybody, not like Gollum, in the cave, kind of like eating his fish, by himself. That is not nutrition, in my view, or not good nutrition. Is gut and brain, go together. They're sort of, their second brain is referred to as the gut, and without good gut health, you can't really have good brain health. So they're one and the same. So you make more serotonin, which is your happy hormone, in your gut than you make anywhere else. So if your gut is inflamed, if you have poor gut health, you have symptoms of that, then it's really difficult to have optimal brain function. Hello, my name is Kate Cook and I'm a corporate nutritionist, which means that I go into businesses and I try and empower people to look at nutrition as the foundation for health and productivity in the workplace. So the three things I would say is to get vibrant energy. Number one, balance your blood sugar. We talked about that today on the program, but that means avoiding sweet, fluffy and white things and going for things that are thick, so that's dense, fibrous, protein and the so-called good fats. So if you do that and you make those choices, you automatically will balance the blood sugar. The second thing you need to do is that you need to eat your breakfast. And the breakfast I'd like you to try is something different. Don't go for commercial cereals because they're usually full of sugar. So go for something like eggs, sardines, rye toast. Be different. So you're looking for, remember, thick, fibrous protein and fat. Be creative on that. So you might have nut butters like cashew nut butters on rye toast. Yum. So try something really different. When you've got the blood sugar balance, you will see that almost in a day that will change your entire energy. And number three, nutrition is a four-letter word. So time, T-I-M-E. So it's really about time, prioritizing that and realizing that so much joy comes from what you eat, and you can be absolutely sensational by just getting that foundation right.
Absolutely fantastic show there. Kate Cook on the program. She was talking about all things to do with strategic eating. Positive Nutrition is the title of her brand new book, and it is available now at all leading and good bookshops. It's also available at Amazon as well. So a fantastic read. If you enjoyed last week's program, don't forget you can always contact us here at Business Connections Live to get a program just like that for your own organisation, for your own business. All you got to do is send us an email. It's dead easy to do that too. studio@businessconnectionslive.com is our email address. But better still, why don't you pick the phone up and give us a call on 01784 256 777. That's our telephone number. Have a word with either myself or Linda. They can talk to us about all different aspects. You can talk about the business program. You talk about media training, if you like some media training, how to handle the media, crisis management. What do you do when you find yourself in a situation when you are talking to a reporter? What are they going to ask you? You may well be prepared for one thing, but what happens if they ask you the question you're not prepared for? We help you get prepared for circumstances and situations just like that one. Don't forget, you can follow our stream of consciousness where you can tweet right now with your questions at BCL Business TV. You can watch the programme and leave questions on our Facebook page. And also, if you go to our YouTube page, just incidentally, if you just go to YouTube, can we just have a quick look at my screen, if we may be so bold? Thank you very much. If you look here, what you can do is you can actually ask a question of Rupert while we're doing the programme live right now. So why don't you, this can be an interesting one when it comes up, but it'll be me looking at me, looking at me, looking at me. All right, then come back to me and look at me, please, if you don't mind. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget, you can also go to our website. That's the best site to go to, businessconnectionslive.com, and you can find out all about all the different services and finding out how you can get on the programme there. You're watching Business Connections Live. Great to have your company. We are live on a Monday afternoon. My guest on today's show is Rupert Honeywood. He is the founder and CEO of Business Growth Bureau. And we're looking at the 7 transformational steps to sales success. Well, listen, we've teased enough about these. Where do we start when it comes to the 7 transformational steps to sales success?
Well, I think the first thing is to define and own your market. So with that, what we're really talking about is actually being clear who your ideal target customers are, and try and think of people as being individuals. Because if you can try and put a name and work out, which sectors they're in and what type of products, services they're interested in buying, and equally what their interests are as well, it'll help you a lot with the targeting. So if you can do, because you can narrow things down by industry sector, by location, by turnover, by key phrase, a whole range of different things.
Is there one important profile kind of question you should be asking yourself? Because I remember when we were talking radio, everybody was talking to Doreen. And Doreen would be middle-aged, and we'd know what age. When I was doing shopping telly, we knew exactly the profile. It was predominantly female. It was 35 to 55-year-olds. They were rampant at that time, catalogue purchasers. They knew the price of everything. The papers they would read would be the Mail and so on, and the publications that we read. So we had a real profile of them, and we knew who we were talking to. Is that important when it comes to businesses, do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Do you need that much detail?
Well, obviously you won't necessarily need that level of detail, but you will need other types of detail. So, for example, if you're selling a service which might be, say, £10,000 or dollars by value, you might say, well, OK, who am I trying to reach? You might be trying to reach people in the technology and software sector, for example. You might be trying to reach business analysts. You might be trying to reach people who are part of companies employing more than 50 people. You might be trying to communicate predominantly as high as you can, let's say at CXO, director, owner level, for example. So if you know those type of things, it makes a massive difference. Location is important in a lot of cases, but also key phrase can be really powerful. So we use the example of business analyst. Well, again, taking all those things combined, you can actually end up with a really nice target audience of people to go after. And then once you know that, then that means that you can start to put in place a nurturing process to engage with those people. So ultimately, they're asking to have conversations with you.
So typically then, it's probably the right thing to do is to look for a value of the business that will match the value of the product you're selling.
Yes, as best as you can, definitely, because clearly if you've got a high-value service, you don't want to be offering it into people who just will never be able to buy your product, service or widget.
Which is the problem that some people have when they go to the likes of, and there are other networking events, but BNI and For Networking, what you're doing is you're dealing with one-man bands, single men or women operations who don't have the available funds to maybe to action your product. If you're looking for a plumber, great, but if you're looking to sell a multi-million pound or a several £1,000 product, they won't have the income or the cash flow to do that.
No. There was one slight caveat to that, though, of course, is that plumber or electrician, guess what? They go into lots of people's houses. So they themselves would know lots of other people.
The ongoing recommendation.
Well, ongoing recommendation is also the people in the outer network. So we have repeated instances, both with ourselves and for our clients, where, for example, sometimes people can be really fixated at communicating at director level. Well, in reality, if it's a larger company, invariably you'll be dealing with perhaps a senior management team rather than at director level, and you're then relying on the individuals in those organisations to sell you from within.
And I suppose that's the thing we forget sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So who do you target, do you think, in your mind's eye? Do you target the company, or are you targeting an individual with a view that they may recommend?
It ultimately is the company may be interested in, but it's the individuals in that organisation which, in the B2B space, which you particularly be targeting. And it's about building relationships up with those individuals so they actually want to engage and they'll sell you from within. That's especially if it's a larger organisation. If it's a smaller one, then they may be one and the same person or as part of the director or leadership team.
So when we say define, that kind of defines who our target audience is. You say here that you then got to own your market. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is actually by being almost the go-to person or a go-to organisation, because you've been able to position yourself very nicely, it leads into the next point, as an expert in that particular space. And if it's okay to lead on to the next point, relating to that, it's also about building on the relationship of trust. And we talked about blogging and articles a bit earlier on. That's another great way of positioning you as being an expert. But we find it really quite shocking, actually, how people can actually hide their existence. So they may think, well, I've created a LinkedIn profile, but actually they forget your profile on LinkedIn is actually the most important part of your real estate. That's how people actually get to find out about you. A lot of people don't go as far as looking at the company page. So this is where it's interesting, because LinkedIn is predominantly a B2B platform, but actually we're communicating with individuals, and it's about making sure that profile is well optimized to time with the business that you're working for. So people get to the nub of your proposition really quickly.
Time and time again we hear people talking about LinkedIn, talking about the profile. Why do you think we still get it wrong? Do we see it nearly as because what it originally was a CV, wasn't it? Do we still just see it as a CV as opposed to that valuable piece of real estate that is, to all intents and purposes, the key landing page about us?
Yeah, and I'm afraid LinkedIn also tend to encourage you perhaps to construct things slightly differently as well, because they make a lot of money out of recruitment agencies. So LinkedIn originally was a great place to put up basically what was your CV online. Now, of course, if you're planning to look for another job, then make your LinkedIn profile a bit like a glorified CV. If you're actually involved in running a business or a business development manager within that organisation, then opt to make sure your profile is well optimised to suit the people that you're trying to reach out to. And that bit of real estate is really, really valuable.
They say at the moment that most businesses do live in a world of obscurity. Nobody knows that anybody's there. You drive onto industrial estates and you will see large multinationals that are sitting there that you have never, ever heard of. Even they don't go to any lengths to promote themselves. Here we are as individuals, and we're trying to project ourselves as experts or as industry thought leaders. So getting the profile right, do you feel that is the first step to going along that route?
Yes, definitely, and also the other part around that is if you've got clients which are very pleased with what you've done, ask for a recommendation, and also be very pleased to give one back. If you've got a great relationship with the client or other people you've worked for, have a giver's gain mindset, slightly stealing the phrase from another respected organisation. But it is actually about giving it, and also because if you give first, then you tend to find that what comes back later on is people then want to give back to you. So if you give recommendations to others, LinkedIn is great for encouraging you to give one back. And that adds a lot to the credibility when people look at your profile, if they can see some good recommendations on there, that carries a lot of weight.
If there was one piece of advice you would give to somebody who is looking at redoing their profile after this conversation today, is it the linguistics that we use? Is it the way that we write it? Is it is it that we write it for ourselves, or we write it for it to be read? What is there one piece of advice you would give them when it comes to that piece of profile writing?
Yeah, I suppose the key thing is to make the person feel you're writing it for them. So write it in a you and your context, so people feel engaged with it. But also, it is about communicating at a personal level. So the first part of the profile needs to be around you as a person, because people need to buy into you first. Next part is about your company or organisation, but a nice tight paragraph, typically 5 or 6 key pain points that people might buy into, 5 or 6 key benefits, a little bit of a sales hook, and then your contact details. So almost treat it like a one-page version of your website, very condensed, because your LinkedIn is also a microcosm in its own site, its own way. So you'll find that quite often when people start to engage on LinkedIn, they won't necessarily get as far as your website. But the good thing is if they start to engage and they start putting their hands up, well, why not move things on to the next level? So it's a great way of enabling really positive conversations.
And we always hear the word keywords, don't we? That includes some of the keywords that people will be searching. Are they single keywords, or are they long-tail keywords where it is a particular sentence that people may search for?
Yeah, that's a good one. Obviously, the bit where you've at the top of your profile, it mentions more about your job title. Try and make it not just relevant to your title. So, for example, say it's CEO. Well, CEO is a little bit meaningless on the head of the organisation. But actually, if you put something descriptive in there, that gets very well indexed by Google. Just as well as your main part of your profile gets very well indexed. So try and write in such a way that people may put search terms into Google, because that way you've got a much bigger chance of coming up as well if people are not inside the LinkedIn platform when they're looking for you.
All right, so that's positioning ourselves then as an industry expert and not hiding. Let's talk about the social selling blueprint. We're going to work our way through this. It's made up, it seems, of 3 key areas. And we've got a minute, so let's just talk about the areas generally, then we'll look at them in more detail in a moment. So a lead generation system, that doesn't have to be yours, or it doesn't have to be anything in particular, as long as you have a lead generation system in place within your organisation. Is that right?
Yeah, so obviously speaking generically here, but if you think of 3 cogs, the first cog to do with lead generation, second cog to do with prospect nurturing, so engage with people, third cog to do with sales optimization. All those 3 cogs need to turn and sync. Now, obviously, this methodology works very well on LinkedIn, but actually works very well through email, or if you're trying to engage people potentially on Facebook or elsewhere. And in fact, in real senses, if you're networking as well, it follows the same basic principles. You need to follow that process. But the problem is, if any one of those cogs is not turning, the whole lot just stops. So that's a fundamental thing as an overview, what you need to achieve.
Well, what we'll do in just a few moments' time, we'll go back, we'll look at the cogs that we're going to be talking about there, the 3 actual parts of it: lead generation, prospect nurturing system, and the sales optimization system. We're going to be talking about that in just a few moments' time right here on this edition of Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Rupert Honeywood. He's the founder and CEO of Business Growth Bureau, your strategic partners in biz growth. Okay, then, let's go back, and here's something that may well help you on this particular edition of the programme. We're going to be going back, we're going to be looking at databases. We often hear the mantra, understanding the customer's journey, from sale to retention, but what does it really mean? Is it just customer care, or is it a set of processes and procedures that can be applied to any business? We were talking on, let's see now, on the 19th of November to Matthew Ruddle. He's from In Touch CRM, and he was talking about the customer journey. Business Connections Live 243. Some key advice then from Matthew right now on this edition of Business Connections Live.
Hi, I'm Matt Ruddle from In Touch CRM, and the key takeaways from today's show are: implement a process for your sales side as well as your customer retention side, because the moment you do that, things become measurable. You can then change it and you can get success, and you know what works and what doesn't work. So look after your new sales as well as looking after your customers, and it can make a massive difference to your business.
Really interesting program. If you get a chance to check it out with Matthew Ruddle there from InTouch CRM. He was on the 19th of November, Business Connections Live 243. If you go to our website, you can find, well, over 250 programs there. There's over 300 hours of great business advice right there on that website. If you want to just peruse your way through all the different shows, all the different topics, there will be one there that will help your business grow. And what's nice about it is that we have a number of different experts who come in and they all have a different perspective on many of the same things, in fact, and one will disagree with another. So you're going to get a kind of a mix, you're going to get a spread of opinion and advice. And I think that's good, because then you can make up your own mind, or you can use a little bit of both to actually grow and succeed in your particular business. Matthew Ruddle then on Business Connections Live 243, and that went out at the end of last year, the 19th of December 2018. You're watching Business Connections Live. Lovely to have your company with us today. On the show today, we're talking to Rupert Honeywood. He is the CEO of Business Growth Bureau, your strategic partners in business. And today we're talking about your 7 transformational steps to sales success. That's what we're talking about. So we're looking at the social selling blueprint. Lead generation system, you kind of explained. What about prospect nurturing system? Or is it better to work our way through each bit in more detail? What would you suggest?
Well, I think we've obviously touched a little bit on the lead generation side, and the good thing is we talked about the targeting and segmenting a little bit earlier on as well. So that's about helping you to identify our ideal type of customers and then segment those down so you can end up with a really nice honed group of people to reach out to. And the second cog, to do with the prospect nurturing side, is really about...
This is the bit we don't do, isn't it? This is the bit invariably that we get out there. If we're on LinkedIn, we connect with somebody. This is the bit where LinkedIn goes, start a conversation, and we don't.
Yeah, and
we don't nurture.
And unfortunately, LinkedIn are sometimes their own worst enemy, because they'll encourage you to send out a connect request to someone without even personalising the message. And because in theory you can just click a button and do it. Well, it's always best to personalise the message, because we're human beings again. We're not robots, thank goodness, not yet anyway. So the next part is when people want to engage, and they have accepted your request. You really need to send a thank you message out for accepting the connect request, and then with that next message, still don't go out with any sales message. It's about building up the next level of engagement, because if you and I go out networking, and I said, hello, I'm Rupert, and what's your name?
No, not talking to you.
Yeah, not talking to me. And then you turn around, and I came back and sold you my stuff, and then walked away again. The point I'd make is that it makes you feel quite disrespected. In fact, you probably wouldn't want to refer them either, and you probably wouldn't want to buy from them. So, yet for some reason, people seem to think it's acceptable behaviour online. So it does require a correct personal approach, but it doesn't need to take long. If people really like what you have to offer, and if your profile is well optimised, then people will engage, and they'll start putting their hands up. So really, the whole prospect nurturing process is all around that, building on the relationship.
We were talking, and I was pontificating outside, as I sometimes do, that invariably wrong. And we were talking about the fact that you don't build a relationship with the shop assistant in Woolworths if they still existed. So is the nurturing bit really important? Is it not about that you've got something, and what you're really trying to do is you're trying to attract somebody to say, that's what I need that service, or I need that product because that's what I'm looking for at the moment. The nurturing is just the froth around the outside, isn't it?
No, I would say it's actually a key part of it. If you do have a service which is highly commoditised, people may not be interested in interacting with you as an individual. So Amazon is a case in point. I know what I want on Amazon, so I go there and I go and buy it.
Yeah, there's no relationship
no
there,
relationship there, no. But if you're talking about a predominantly a high value or a service or product which relies on human interaction, then you need to interact with human beings, and the people you're interacting with need to actually be very likeable, trustable, and you need to feel that they've got the best...
That's my future gone down the path, isn't it? Likeable and trustable.
And at the end of the day, people will engage with you then, and you can move things on to another level.
Have you seen real examples of that, where you're engaging on behalf of somebody else, so therefore you're creating a persona for them? Have you seen where that really works, or have you seen it where you've created the persona, you've done the engagement, you've created a hot lead for somebody, and the moment that they start talking one-to-one, that they're not really the persona that you generated or created?
No, because I think it depends how you craft the message. The message, because when you first reach out to someone, you don't necessarily know what they're most interested at that point in time. So you can't be too specific over the questions because they're not ready at that point, and you may not even know. But so the big thing is I've seen people making the whole process far too complex and complicated, and the messaging trying to get far too smart over it, and that also could have the reverse effect. And one of the worst scenarios as well is if you go out straight with a pitch the moment someone's accepted your connection request, because again the relationship's not there, so you've got to build on it.
If that's the norm, it's interesting that if that's the norm for the platform, and it was the norm for the platform, then that would be okay then, wouldn't it? If that's what everybody's doing, then everybody's doing it. And if you accept a request from somebody, then you are marketing yourself anyway. The pitch is already there in your profile. Likewise, the pitch is already there for the person that you are connecting with. They too have already pitched to you, or you wouldn't be connecting with them. Aren't we kind of looking for it, kind of putting our pitches up about ourselves, then we connect the two pitches together, and then we're complaining about pitching to each other?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think the big thing is in your profile, people are actually physically going to your profile to have a look. So they would expect to see what you do on your profile and how you can help them. So I'm actually going there because I'm interested. Whereas if you're actually...
Would it be better then occasionally for us to go no?
Sometimes, yes.
Because we live in a world of vanity by numbers, don't we? Everybody goes, well, I got 3,000 LinkedIn connections. I know barely any of them.
Exactly. And there's a very good analogy over that, which I won't repeat on air, but the bottom line is it is about reaching out, engaging with people, taking people through a nurturing process, getting people warmed up. So they're asking to have those conversations, and as quickly as possible then trying to take those people offline so you can have a phone conversation or a meeting or whatever your sales process is from that point onwards. But whatever you do, don't let those leads go cold, because people are expecting to hear from you at that point.
How important do you think it is to actually to take them offline? I know you said to me before that one of the issues you have is that you generate all these warm leads and then people get a piece of paper and they go, these are all the warm leads, I'll phone them next week.
Or if they phone them at all.
Yes.
Yeah, which is quite shocking, actually, what we find. And also people go the other way, so they'll try and write these very convoluted so-called pitch messages, but no one's interested. People have only got an attention span of 10 or 15 seconds online. So you've got to be able to grab their attention very quickly and make it interesting. So, and the more complex you make it, things just then stop working, and people feel then they're being sold to as well. And that's when it goes wrong. So it is about that engagement part.
Now, there are going to be internet marketeers that are going to be watching the programme today, and they're going to be big fans of long-form sales letters. And that what they're saying is that you're just repeating the same thing over and over again in a different way, with testimonials and calls to action all the way through it. Do you think, is there still a place for those long-form sales letters, or is it a particular niche in the marketplace where there's a place for them?
I think sometimes long-form sales letters can work a lot better in an email rather than through a LinkedIn message, because a lot of the time we're looking at our LinkedIn messages through our LinkedIn app on our phone. And obviously you're looking through a very small window there. And a lot of the time as well, when you're doing it, you're on the go as well. So, it is about grabbing people's attention very quickly. So, if you have got someone's attention in 10 or 15 seconds, you're doing pretty well. But you need to word the message in such a way that people want to say yes to either one of those responses without barely thinking about it. So you need to make it so intuitive that they want to engage with you. That stuff just happens.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you give me an example of that kind of question?
Yes. Well, for example, if you were to say, in our case, obviously we're interested in business, helping people to grow businesses. So a great question for us would be, are you interested in business growth? Okay. Now, you might think it's so blindingly obvious. Why would you ask the question? But actually, it sums up what we do. And if someone can't answer yes to that question, they're not a good client for us, because we want to help businesses to grow. So that's actually an obvious question, but it's also a qualifying question. But it's also the type of thing that someone in their mind can answer that without barely thinking about it. Whereas if I actually made the sentence a lot longer and then tried to wrap it up in some form of complexity, I would have to think about it, and therefore you've lost the moment. You'd probably never hear from them again.
It's interesting, because isn't there a process? Is it the 9-word email? I think it's something like that. Maybe not 9 words, I'm not certain. But the the question on the email that you send out to old prospects or old clients, are you still interested in fill in the gap? And it's a yes or no question. If they are, then that's good, and if they're not, then it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, quite. I mean, there's one slight caveat to that. It can also be an issue of time, where sometimes ultra short works, interesting enough, is via text message. And obviously you have to be very careful with compliance and all this type of stuff now. But
She'll be in the door, you know that.
We happen to have got a barrister in the building.
Our barrister, our GDPR expert. Yes.
But I don't know about you, but if for example I'm about to meet someone, but perhaps the appointment's arranged several weeks ago, you might send a short text message out the day before, just simply say, got a meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Is that still convenient? And most people, because it's a personal message, will actually reply, yes, sure, looking forward to seeing you. So very, very small sound bites like that, especially through medium of text, can work very well. So it doesn't have to be long, whereas emails, sometimes very short emails can work well, equally some longer ones can. Through LinkedIn, generally, with the qualifying pitch message, try and keep it short as you can, because people's attention span is very short.
Just very briefly, you talk about taking them offline, which is interesting. So that is telephone calls, written word, the letters, things like that.
Yes, and in fact we talked about earlier on. Actually, even good old boring lumpy mail has become so unfashionable.
Lumpy mail,
it is a great thing to do. So if you've got a high value ticket or product or service, integrate that can be part of your integrated marketing solution. So it doesn't have to be all through social media.
That would be a really good name for a company, wouldn't it?
You're only saying that because, of course,
it's integrated marketing.
Exactly.
Anyway, moving smartly on. We're going to be talking about sales optimization systems in just a moment. Just give us a brief introduction to that then. Sales optimization systems, what do you mean by that?
Okay, the sales optimization side is for every 10 hot prospects that passed over to you, it might be for every 10 of those, that might lead into, say, 3 meetings, that might lead into 1 sale, whatever your numbers actually are. The important thing is actually knowing your ratios. If you've got a product which is in demand, it might be for every 5 you get through, that leads into 2 meetings, that leads to 1 sale. If you've got a very high product or service, a value product or service, but it's also in a very, very competitive space, your ratios might be 23:1 instead. And why is that so important? Well, that helps to determine what activity you need to put in at the top of the bucket, as it were, to actually generate those number of sales at the bottom. So, and that's really, really important. So you need to know your numbers, both in terms of the lead generation point of view, nurturing prospects and sales-based opportunities, but you also need to know what the numbers are in terms of the average value of sale as well. Because if, for example, you've got a product or service which is, say, £1,000 or dollars, but it's going to cost you £2,000 or dollars to acquire that customer, clearly that's the fastest way of going broke. But actually, a lot of people do it, especially if you're using pay-per-click, and Facebook, LinkedIn are a great case point. If you get things wrong, you can burn through massive amounts of cash really quickly. And so
it's easy to get it wrong, isn't it?
It is very easy to get wrong. It's almost, you need to have, a very well-oiled machine. And again, this is the nice approach with something like LinkedIn, because apart from possibly needing to upgrade to Sales Navigator, which we'd recommend, what you can do on that, the rest of it, apart from, you can just invest your time and generate some really good activity for yourselves. Of course, if you really want to put rocket fuel under it, then, of course, I'm biased, but you could use us. But the point I'm trying to make is it's very, very low risk, and you haven't got to pay LinkedIn any other money to do it. Whereas you do pay-per-click, a click is just a click, and can burn through cash very quickly.
And the thing about LinkedIn as well, when it comes to pay-per-click, it's very expensive, isn't it? Compared to the others. I mean, it's most expensive off the ones that are out there, isn't it? Yeah,
and at the moment, the jury's still a little bit out on how well that works at the moment. It can work well, but it's much easier to get it wrong on LinkedIn than it is through some of the other platforms out there.
More to come from Rupert in just a few moments' time here on this edition of Business Connections Live. I hope you're finding it interesting. Fascinating insight into what you should and what you could be doing when you're online and when you're using your LinkedIn to grow and to get more prospects for your organisation and for your business. More from Rupert in just a few moments. Okay, then, just like to say thank you to all the people that are downloading the program. By the way, the program is available excuse me, right across the board. It's available on the likes of Roku across the states at the moment. It's available currently as well on Blueberry, Stitcher, iTunes. Now, iTunes is an interesting one. More about that in a moment. We have had an approach from an American organisation as well, an American channel, and they'd be very excited about adding us to their platform. Would you like access to 25 million people, 25 million, that you'd be affiliate, you'd be across the United States of America as partner to this particular project? If you would, then get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live very quickly. Drop us an email on this one if 25 million audience in the States would be of interest. Studio at businessconnectionslive.com, of course, is our email address, or you can pick up the phone and have a word with us about this, 01784 256 777. While we're talking about big platforms, iTunes is probably the world's biggest distribution of podcasts and the like. We're on that too. If you'd like to be one of the thousands of people that are downloading it, then just go to iTunes. More importantly, once you are downloading us on iTunes, please do leave a review. That's important, and it's easy to do. All you got to do is watch and view the program inside your iTunes account. Click on the iTunes link. That'll take you to your ratings and reviews with like a 5-star rating. Actually, it doesn't really matter, you know, these days. A bad rating shows interaction, and they like that too. So anyway, write a pleasant review, 5 stars, to say how interesting you found Rupert, and that would be a big help for the program. It helps us grow the show and make it bigger, brighter and better. God, I haven't said that for a long time. So if you want to do that, that would be a great help. Just go along to your iTunes account and find Business Connections Live. You're watching Business Connections Live, the business program for SMEs, entrepreneurs and business owners. My guest on today's show is Rupert Honeywood. Rupert is the founder and CEO of Business Growth Bureau, your strategic partners in Biz Growth. We're talking about the seven ways, the transformational steps to sales success for your business. We've already talked about lead generation, prospect nurturing. We've kind of had an introduction to sales optimization system. Is there anything else we need to be considering when it comes to optimizing our sales system?
Yeah, I think that the devil's in the follow-up. That's the most important thing.
If you just come on and said, if someone contacts you, follow them up.
Yeah. We actually have to have conversations like that regularly, actually. It's quite shocking. I think people have got this real fear of the phone. And also, we touched on this a bit earlier on, a little bit lazy as well, that people almost seem to expect people just to come to them. Well, you know, if you put a website up there, but you don't drive any traffic to it, no one's going to buy what you have to sell, so they're not going to know you exist. If you don't use some form of physical engagement at different points, people are never going to buy from you, because they're not going to know again. And the other part around that too is what I would feel is the massive lost opportunity costs through indecision. In fact, we call it decision paralysis, in effect, because what you can end up in a situation is where a company is struggling to get business, but what they do is they cut money on marketing. So if, for example, you've got a turnover of, say, £500,000 a year, and your goal is to bring it up to £1 million over a year, you want to be increasing the sales by £40,000 a month. So if you actually take a 3-month delay in making that decision, that's actually cost your business £120,000. And that's straight on the bottom line. So it's what we class as decision paralysis, but that ties in very well with a lot of this, because at the end of the day, we want our customers fundamentally to grow and accelerate the rate of growth in their business.
How often do you have that conversation, and how difficult can that conversation be, and the realisation that they're losing that much money?
It can be tough, especially if it's a smaller business, because what can happen is you can get sales that just dry up. But because they're running it more as a lifestyle business, they're not running it as a proper business in the sense that normally you and I would invest in it. So, for example, if you realised you've got a problem in one particular area, you would invest and put money into it if you knew it was going to get you into a much better place tomorrow. So what ends up by happening is people can fail to put the oxygen masks themselves. So that's meaning that this business ends up by being stuck in the same place, never really being able to get out of it. And of course, we're in great times at the moment because we've got massive disruption going on in the marketplace. it's up to us to seize those opportunities of change. The companies and organisations or individuals which are bold and actually fight through now are the ones that will come through on the other side. They'll be actually leaving a lot of the competition behind.
Look at that, we nearly said the B word.
We didn't manage
We
to
got
say
away with it. We never said the word. Okay, now this is interesting. It says here, know your numbers and plug into, it says, your expert system. When it comes to knowing your numbers, you alluded to it earlier on that a number of contacts turn into a number of leads, that turn into a number of meetings, that turn into a number of sales. How many businesses that you meet actually do know those ratios and those numbers within their business? Or are we reinventing the wheel each and every time that we approach a prospect?
It obviously is going to vary an awful lot from one customer to another. But where possible, what you need to be doing is trying to work out which clients or customers are unprofitable for you, so you're not trying to target those. And equally, it could well be that even large customers may not be right for you. So, for example, if you're dealing with local authorities, they may expect everything to be submitted in the way of tenders. Well, actually, if you're turning over perhaps £250,000 a year, can you afford to be spending a lot of time putting in proposals for tenders? It might be a massive tender. Would you ever stand a chance of getting the contract? How much does it really cost to acquire that customer? So again, that ties in very much with the cost of acquisition. That's a massive hidden cost, and it requires a high level of expertise. It is fundamentally really important about getting to know your numbers and then making sure you target the right type of potential clients.
Do you think that small to medium-sized businesses, actually what they do, because they evolve from the single-man startup, the single-woman startup, that they seem to continue at the same kind of mindset as they get bigger and bigger, so that, as you said, they start as a lifestyle business because what it's doing is bringing in an income for them. But even when they get to 100 employees, they're still running it like a lifestyle business and not running it as a business.
Yes, although I would say once you get up to that size, you typically would have probably a head of HR and you probably have a head of finance and all this
Chances are they're probably left by that stage.
They would have done, because if they've had investment, probably the CEOs have been voted out by the new board,
Yes.
which tends to happen as well. But I think it's important to remember some of the stats as well, because 76% of businesses in the UK, and it's a similar percentage in the US, I believe, are literally one-person businesses. Another 18% of businesses employ between 2 and 10 people. So 95% of companies in the UK and the US are actually run by businesses which have got 10 or less people in them. So, but that's a massive market. You only need to look at the numbers; they're massive. So there's massive opportunities in that space. But the understanding who you're trying to reach is very important in terms of your targeting from a marketing point of view.
Listen, I don't know about you, it's been a really interesting insight into what you should be doing. I suppose, Rupert, the trouble is that, dare I say this, and I'm saying it as nicely as I mean it to be, but it's the same mantra. We hear it all the time. And why is it that businesses do not action the good advice?
Bottom line is I don't know.
Well, there we have it.
I wish I did know.
And on that bombshell, he doesn't know. Goodbye. No, listen, before we go, it's been really interesting. It's been a great show talking to you, as always. But there's always those key takeaways. So now's an opportunity, straight down camera number 4, to give us the key takeaways for today's show. It's this one over here.
Right, thank you.
I just thought I'd point it out to you. It's got no number on the front today. Who you are, where you're from, and the key takeaways that we need to be remembering from today's programme. Because I think today has been really valuable for organisations and individuals who are looking to grow their business. The biggest thing is that it is all about action. The airwaves are all yours. Who you are, where you are. Camera number 4.
Lovely, thank you for that. Fundamentally, it is about putting the right systems and processes in place. Remember that we are dealing in a true global economy at the moment. If you plug it very much into the 7 transformational steps and expert systems, and in particular make sure those 3 cogs are working well, which is to do with the lead generation part, prospect nurturing part and sales optimization systems, make sure those are all turning in sync. You'll end up with a well-oiled machine and you'll end up with lots of sales-based opportunities on the back of it.
There we are.
Thank you.
Can you just recap the 7 steps for us? Can you do that very quickly?
Yes. So first of all, find and own your market. then it's about. I've actually forgotten.
You
already.
find them. You find
I have
them.
to find my iPad. Sorry about that. Not very good.
Don't worry, we'll edit that bit out.
Yeah.
Right, you ready? No, don't worry. We're going for it. You ready? Whenever you're ready, you just say.
Right. Oh God, sorry about this.
Listen, while Rupert is finding that,
sorry.
Just while he's getting his act together.
Okay.
If you just have a look at the website, it's Business Growth. Sorry about that, Rupert. My fault. Business Growth Bureau. If you go to their website, you can find out a little bit more about Rupert and also what the business does. There are the three cogs. In fact, I'm going to just close the window, which is about today's programme. We're here to help you grow your business and win more sales. Define your own market. I can do it for you. They're all here. Define your own market. Present yourself as the expert and don't hide. Follow the social selling blueprint as below. Lead generation, prospect nurturing, sales optimization. Know your numbers and plug into their expert system. You can see an example of the cogs all sitting over here. You follow that process, you can see the kind of level of clients and customers who are currently working with Rupert and having real success and real results coming back. There are loads of quotes there as well from some of their clients, but PayPal Giving Fund, big events and Lee McQueen, winner of The Apprentice, is one of the clients. You've got Michael Romling there, Inside Out, William Baird, Global Engage, Claire Burrows from Answercom. There's a whole load of great reviews there about how Rupert and his business, and by following those steps, can help grow your organisation. And there's the telephone numbers if you just want to get in touch. Fantastic website, loads of great information. There's a blog as well, isn't there? There's a load of TV and videos on there. You can do a self-test as well with their scorecard. I'd like you just to give us those 7 things one more time. Straight down number 4. Airwaves are yours again.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, fundamentally, it's about defining and owning your market, also presenting yourself as the expert and not hiding your existence online. It is about using the social selling blueprint, so lead generation system, prospect nurturing, sales optimization system. And it's also about knowing your numbers. And knowing your numbers is so important because that way you can determine how much you can really afford to invest in the growth of your business and how you can move it on to another level.
Thank you very much indeed. There we go. We got it all out there. There we go. Fabulous. Rupert Honeywood, he is the CEO of the Business Growth Bureau, your strategic partners in business growth. Really interesting show today. Now, coming up on future programmes, who we got lined up for you? Really excited about some of the guests. Been excited about having Rupert back on the programme, and some of our future guests, some real crackers coming up. Steve Mills. Hello, it's Steve Mills here. Steve Mills is going to be on the programme very shortly. He's got a great show lined up as well. We like Steve Mills very much indeed. And also Michael Brook, Professional Excellence Sales Training. He'll tell us and talk to us. Oh, we're having a few microphone problems there, are we? Is that okay now? Michael Brook, he's a professional sales trainer. Jonathan J, we better get out of here then, is also going to be on the program. Angus Grady talking a little bit more about LinkedIn and being interactive with your client. And Deborah Hume from Minerva Engagement. Listen, the kit's just about to fall over from all of us here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. From me, Steve Highland, and also Rupert Honeywood, thank you very much for your company. Till we do it again next week, Monday at 12 noon. Have a great week and bye for now. Bye-bye.